Hello everyone. In the lesson 3, we are going to study why we are going to study organic chemistry as a separate branch. There are 118 elements in the periodic table. Each element doesn't have such a unique property as carbon. Because of the carbon, we are going to study organic chemistry as a separate branch of study, so that we are going to learn in detail in this lesson. After understanding this lesson, after you complete this lesson, you will be able to understand the importance of carbon and its compound, which make it as a separate branch. In this lesson, we are going to study why there are large number of organic compound, tetravalency of the carbon, catenation property, that is called as self-linking property, ability to form the multiple covalent bonds, carbon forms rings, carbon and its compound exhibit isomerism. It going to build a with a relatively small elements, with a few number of elements, it going to form a bond, it going to form a compound, carbon going to form a compound with only few elements. Because of all these reasons, we are going to study organic chemistry as a separate branch of chemistry. We are going to study, we are going to look that into that in detail in the next slides. You know that organic chemistry is a branch of chemistry which deals about carbon and their compounds. Generally all the organic compound, they are going to contain carbon and hydrogen. Therefore, we have modified our definition as the study of hydrocarbons and their derivatives. Even though organic chemistry focuses on the compounds that contain carbon and hydrogen, more than 95% of the compounds that have been isolated from the natural sources are synthesized in the laboratory or organic in nature. There will be a huge number of organic compounds in and around us. So what makes so special about organic compounds? I already told you that there are 118 elements in the periodic table. But what makes carbon so unique, so special? We are not studying all other elements chemistry as a separate branch. We are studying only carbon and its compound as a separate branch of chemistry. What makes so unique about? Understand that you have to understand the physical properties of carbon. Carbon in nature going to exhibit in different allotropic forms like diamond, graphite, charcoal, etc. Actually, it is a Latin term. Carbo means coal. First, they isolated this in coal. Therefore, they use the word carbon. Its original language was in Latin. It has a symbol C. Atomic number is 6. Therefore, electronic configuration is 1s2, 2s2, 2p2. Number of shells, electrons per shell, that is outermost shell is, there are 6 electrons are there in the outermost shell, 2s2 and 2p2. Discovered in 3750 BC. Atomic mass is 12. It belongs to group 14 in the periodic table. It has tetravalent, it has 4 valency in the outermost shell, and it is non-metallic in nature. These are the physical properties of carbon. Then, why we have to study this carbon? What is so unique about this carbon? Why we are studying this as a separate branch of chemistry? There are many reasons for this. First one is, we are going to have a huge number of organic compound that makes it to study as a separate branch of chemistry. It is tetravalent in nature. It has a valency 4. It can link to 4 different groups or other 4. It can link with 4 different carbon atoms or with other elements like nitrogen, sulfur, halogen, etc. And that property we are going to call it as a catenation or self-linking property. It has a tendency to link to its own carbon of some other compound. It has the ability to form the multiple covalent bonds. It can also bond with carbon. It can also bond with other elements. With a carbon also, it can form a single bond, double bond or a triple bond. So that makes it as a huge number of organic compounds around us. Carbon forms also ring-like structure. It not only forms the open chain structure, it also forms the ring-like structure. Therefore, there will be a huge number of organic compounds. These organic compounds also exhibit isomerism. Isomers are the compounds which going to have same molecular formula, same structural formula, but they're going to have different physical and chemical properties. In these we are going to call it as isomers. So they may be structural isomers or they may be stereoisomers. All of them, they're going to have different biological or chemical properties, which makes them as a unique, even though they're going to contain the same molecular formula, but they're going to have, since they're going to have different properties, we are going to consider them as two different compounds. Thereby there will be increase in number of organic compounds. But another unique feature of carbon is that it can form bond with a few elements like nitrogen, sulfur, halogen and some metals. With few metals only, few elements only, it can form strong bonds. Now we will see one by one. I told you the one of the major reason why we are studying organic chemistry as a separate branch of chemistry is we are going to have a huge number of organic compounds. Over 10 billion compounds have been identified, and till today, every day more than 1000 new compounds have been identified. Therefore, we are going to have a huge number of organic compounds. If you consider a weighing balance, and if you put in one pan of the balance, if you put all other elements, 117 elements and their compounds in one pan, and carbon its compounds in another pan, when you weigh, the more weight will go towards the carbon and its compounds only. Such a huge number of organic compounds we have. Because of that, we are studying organic chemistry as a separate branch of chemistry. That is one of the major reason why we are studying organic chemistry as a separate branch of chemistry. The second unique property of carbon is that it is tetravalent in nature. It has 4 valence electrons, therefore it can form 4 covalent bonds. Carbon valency, I already told you that atomic number is 6, therefore 1s2, 2s2, 2p, 4 is there. Therefore this is the way it going to arrange its electron. Valence electron, it going to have 4 valence electron, therefore it can make 4 different bonds with the same carbon or with the other elements. Here we are given the methane, it going to form a bond with a 4 hydrogen atom to form methane. In carbon tetrachloride, it going to make a bond with a 4 chlorine atom. So it is so what makes so special about organic compounds? I already told you that there are 118 elements in the periodic table. But what makes carbon so unique, so special? We are not studying all other elements chemistry as a separate branch. We are studying only carbon and its compound as a separate branch of chemistry. What makes so unique about carbon? To compounds, and also it going to form the ability to form the multiple bonds. So as already told you, carbon likes to make a bond with its own carbon, or it can form a single bond, it can form a double bond, or it can form a triple bond. So all these compounds we find in our day-to-day life. For example, when you consider a propane with a 3 carbon atom, if you consider, we are going to use that as a campaigning stove contains only the single bonds. Campaign, you have LPG gas, you are going to have that. Again, in double bond, when you consider ethene, that's a compound which helps to ripen the fruit. I think you have observed that sometimes they are going to say that mango or banana, it has been ripened. Inside it is not ripened, only the outside, the outer part of the fruit will be ripened. It seems to be ripened. That is because of the ethane. If it come across the ethane, then it going to form like that. It's the one which helps to ripen the fruits. And when you consider the triple bond, ethane we are going to use it. It's also called as acetylene. It is used to weld acetylene flame. Welding torches, we are going to use that. So like this, it can have a capacity to form the bonds, and also it can form the rings. So it can make a ring with its own, or it also can form the heterocyclic compounds also. For example, when you consider a benzene, a C6H6, all carbon atoms in a ring are made up of carbon only. Apart from this, you may also have heterocyclic compound. It can also form a linear chain, it can also form a branched chain, it can also form a ring like structure, it can also form the fused ring like structure. Because of all these reasons, we are going to have huge number of organic compound. Another important factor is that these organic compounds also exhibit the isomerism. Isomerism is a phenomenon exhibited by the isomers. What are isomers? Isomers are the organic compound which going to have same molecular formula, may or may not have different structural formula, but they are going to have different physical and chemical properties. Because since they are going to have different physical and chemical property, we are going to treat them as different compounds. Because of that, there will be a huge number of organic compound. When you consider a butane, it is going to form a bond with a linear chain without any branching. When you consider the same molecular formula, it can also form the isobutane. Butane and isobutane are the isomers having the same molecular formula but different structural formula. Since they are going to have the different structural formula, they are going to exhibit different chemical and properties, and we are going to treat them as different compounds. Similarly, 1,2-dichlorobenzene or 1,3-dichlorobenzene, 1,4-dichlorobenzene is also going to act as an isomers. Here second is an example for position isomer. First one is an example for chain isomers. So they can exhibit different varieties of isomers. Because of that, these isomers, since they are going to have different chemical and physical properties, we are going to treat them as different compound. That also going to increase the number of organic compound. But it can form a strong bond with a few elements only. It can make a bond with nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, halogen, and some metals. We also have organometallic compounds. That is because of the carbon make a bond with metals. Here is an interesting factor you are going to observe. In our body, they are made up of 25 elements of the living things. I already told you that there are 118 elements in the periodic table. Out of 118, 25 elements are present in our body. 65% oxygen, 10% hydrogen, 18% carbon. So in our body also lot of organic reactions, biochemical reactions that has been taking place. 97% of our body's mass is made up of just 4 elements: oxygen, carbon, hydrogen, and nitrogen. So these are the important parameters that you should know so that you can feel proud to study organic chemistry. Two major other elements are phosphorus and sulfur. So 25 elements are there in our body, out of which all carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, which are part and parcel of the organic compound, that is present. 97% of our body is made up of that. Along with that, we are also going to have phosphorus and sulfur. Here I have a question. I told you the organic compounds are the compounds which going to contain carbon or hydrocarbon. Here are few examples are there. Just you tell me whether they are organic or inorganic. Calcium carbide, CaC2. Carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, calcium carbonate, hydrogen cyanide. All these compounds, you tell me whether they are organic or inorganic. As the definition says that they are organic in nature. That's what we are going to tell. But they are not organic in nature, they are inorganic. Why? We are going to think about that. Again, another two compounds I told you, carbon tetrachloride and carbon tetrabromide. These are organic in nature, even though they do not contain hydrogen. Because nowadays, how we are going to define the organic compounds? Those are the hydrocarbons. These are the only two compounds which exist in nature, which are organic in nature, but they do not contain hydrogen. So remember, carbon has only 4 valence, and Chinmaya Das says that life is like an organic chemistry, easy and pleasant, as long as you pay attention. Difficult and challenging unless we take the plunge. So therefore, you start enjoying chemistry, particularly organic chemistry. You pay attention, then it will be easy for you to understand. Thank you. All the best.